So my name is Zach Kaplan. I'm the founder and CEO of Inventables. And how many people know what Inventables is? Okay. So as Dale was alluding to, when I started back in 2002, we sent out these little kits of material, about 20 materials a quarter. So it was like a Jelly of the Month club. But instead of jelly, it was materials like Katerina was showing you. Instead of monthly, it was quarterly. And somewhere about 2008, I started realizing, we started getting all these calls and emails and people coming to our office who had either done a Kickstarter project or they're a startup, and they're like, hey, I need this kind of material. Do you have it? And at the time, we were charging about $120,000 to subscribe to get access to the materials. And so I started looking into why are all these people calling us, and I started calling the manufacturers of machines, CNC machines, 3D printed machines, kind of like ShopBot, and asking them, 10 years ago, how much did it cost? 20 years ago, how much did it cost? And lots of people up here have said it used to be hundreds of thousands of dollars or even millions. And today, most of these tools, you can get a version that's a couple $100 or a couple $1,000. And Kickstarter came out, and we started getting guys who were coming to our office saying, hey, I need this component and that component. And we're like, OK. And they're like, I've already sold $33,000 in my product. Can you help me now? And we were like, wait, what? So this happened 3 or 4 times, and we completely changed the business to be from an enterprise company servicing companies like Palm and Microsoft to a hardware store for designers servicing anybody with a credit card. And most interestingly, in the last couple of months, we've started getting interested in the enabling technology. So specifically, the really ultra low-cost tools and the technologies or the components that are making these tools possible. So this is Edward Ford. He lives about 2 hours west of Chicago. And he had a dream to make a CNC mill that was like a couple $100. This is his first prototype, all out of wood. He calls it the Shapeoko project. And he's not an engineer. He's got a background in liberal arts. But he just wanted to make one. So he did, and he made it an open source project. He started a website where there's a forum, and he posts all the bill of materials. And he did a Kickstarter. He ended up funding the Kickstarter and delivered about 100 of these machines. And then I think it was somebody, I think Make or Travis wrote an article, and the next day he got 1,000 people who signed up to his site, and they wanted one too. And his wife was like, "You're not doing this." So this was his house as he's delivering the Kickstarters. He's got basically all the parts there, and he's basically spending every waking moment delivering on these mills that he sold. And so I had met at Maker Faire in Detroit Bart Dring, who this component right here is called Maker Slide. And it's basically an aluminum extrusion with a railing system built into it. And what that does is it makes it possible to have the structure of the machine and the railing system all in one. And so Bart had taken me, he'd come over to the office and asked, could Inventables help bring this to market, because it's kind of expensive to manufacture Maker Slide. You need to make 1,000 pounds at a time and about a $5,000 tool. And so we went over to CNC Night at Pumping Station 1, which is one of the hacker spaces in Chicago. And Edward was there. These guys are messing around with the OrdBot, which uses the Maker Slide railing system. And we were just kind of talking, and Edward's like, hey, can you help? And so I was like, sure, this sounds pretty interesting. And so what we did is, this is our site. We sell about 32,000 materials. If you order by 3, we ship most of them the same day. And where SparkFun and Adafruit are more on the electronic side, we sell raw materials, things like acrylic. There's about 60 different colors of acrylic and wood veneers and all sorts of esoteric things like squishy magnets. But the interesting thing was last year we started adding all of these low-cost digital fabrication tools. So we sell a $2,000 laser cutter and the MakerBot. And I got my first introduction to CNC milling when I was in high school, because our high school had this huge vocational program that was abandoned. And the science teachers walked in, and I got to, over the course of junior and senior year, build a roller coaster that was all CNC milled. And so we launched Edward with the Shapeoko. We changed our homepage in an homage to Steve Jobs and Apple to his machine. And in about 3.5 weeks, we sold about 400 Shapeokos. So it tipped. which was enough for us to both fund the factory to make the maker slide, but also order all the components to make the mills. And so in about 45 days, we're going to be shipping out the first batch of them. And we turned it off to kind of collect ourselves and start making them. And then the next week and a half, we got another 120 people that wrote in and asked, can we have one too? So we turned it back on to get the second batch. So that was it. So in summary, like what I see happening, and as you see all those machines getting cheaper, the 100K garages concept, like it's not just that these tools are making it possible for makers to create things, but the tools are making it possible for factories in America to get access to these technologies at a much lower cost. And I think it's materially going to be changing the retail environment in our country, because even as we were sourcing parts for this machine, some of the factories in Iowa are giving us the same price that the factory in China is giving for, but Iowa is UPS ground away from our office. So think about that.
One other thing, Lisa Mitchell at Kauffman Foundation ran into you at TED, and you guys started brewing up an idea, and she wrote me yesterday about getting Make involved in it, and I think you've been talking to Bree Pettis. Tell us about that idea.
Yeah, so we're really interested in foundational technologies, and one of the things that I think will drive widespread adoption of 3D printing is lowering the cost of the plastic. And so at Maker Faire in a couple days, we're going to announce a competition where we're going to give away $40,000 and a desktop fabrication lab, so a laser cutter, a 3D printer, and a CNC mill, to the first person that makes an open source filament extruder, so a machine that can take resin pellets and spit out filament for $250 in parts.